Welcome to What's Left, a weekly political discussion challenging the mainstream left. I'm Eduardo Abarca with Andy Livson, and we're back, just the two of us, once again.
Yes.
We had multiple interviews.
We've been kind of lazy.
Yeah, huh? But it's given me a break.
Yeah.
From thinking and having other people think for me. You're kidding. Okay, I don't know if we're going to add this.
I'm not kidding. That's totally true.
It's for me. I was speaking for myself.
I'm glad somebody else could do the work.
All right.
But now we're back.
Yes. And originally, Andy had decided, Andy had thought we might discuss, and I'm going to mention this for a reason. He had originally had thought that maybe we should discuss what is democratic socialism and the Democrats and versus the Democrats. And that is an important topic because we haven't been saying at the end of our videos what our next topic will be. So I want to say that maybe that will be our future episode.
Sure.
Yep. But I had called Andy and I had said we need to discuss what had happened on Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it happened, and it happened after our last interview on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So Friday in New Zealand.
Last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last week. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Friday in New Zealand, 50 people, about 50 people, I'm sure, have been murdered. There was a massacre by alone one single person, but it says that they've been orchestrated online.
Yeah,
somehow,
there are multiple
community.
arrests, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So at least 3 people are.
But the actual physical shooting by one person.
Yeah.
Yes, by Brenton Tarrant.
Yeah.
Brenton Tarrant, and he is an Australian-born person, and he wrote a manifesto, and he had also live recording, which YouTube, Facebook were madly trying to take down from the internet. But it's now widely known globally. This has become international. I think this will be more expected as we are in the digital age, and more things can be uploaded and more things could be talked about socially in communities and forums online in the crevices of the internet. And this is especially significant because I think New Zealand is regarded as one of the most peaceful nations in the world. I think it's supposedly no. Mm-hmm. And so this is a very impactful. We have lots of mass shootings here in the USA. In my country, we don't have that. And recently, we just had a mass shooting in Latin America and Brazil, and everyone's in uproar because this is normally something the USA is known for, and not something in Latin America. Anyhow, the point being is, this occurred, and I called Andy and I said, Andy, we need to discuss this because it's important. And for me, I thought I was going to take this about in a way where I thought I was going to have a position. But the more, I wasn't even preparing. I was just listening, because that's what I do all day. I wash dishes and I listen to things, and I listen to various media sources. And then I just was left with a lot of questions. And it brought up a host of 5 ideas, topics, centered a host of discussion points I think that we should talk about. And I have no idea where I'm going to take this.
Nor do I.
But I hope that we can have a lively discussion where I will unravel maybe some disagreements with you, or possibly I get a personal revelation from something of our discussion. No? Mm-hmm. Which I think is why I think people love us, because we're very transparent, I think, in
all
this.
300 of our audience members love us.
So the 5 points of discussion that I think we'll be centering around is, unless something else comes up that you bring up, is that I have dudas, questions about Islamophobia, the rise of white nationalism, state-sponsored xenophobia, the gun control debate again, and lastly, political correctness. That are areas that for me were constantly I was ruminating about. I don't know if you have another point to add to it, or you might even see some of them as consolidated.
Sure. I mean, the thing that comes up to me is who's responsible for this? That's the question that comes to mind. And, so I think there are people who will lay this at the doorstep of rising white nationalism. I think I would lay it on a different doorstep.
Well, so that will be our that, so people know where we're heading with this. All right. The immediate response that I feel from this is that I do feel, and here's where I'm iffy about it. I do feel there is a recent wave of a trending white nationalism arising that seems to have been placed in the closet and has now been opened up again, but in a different form. I do feel that this is something that is happening. I do think that there is a backlash as well from the identity politics discussion that is taking place, especially here in the USA, which is very influential globally. It is what leads conversations around the country. And I think that this is what people pin Trump to be. But I think before Trump, this has been brewing for some time. There have always been racism in this country. I'm not discussing just racism. I am discussing this is where I'm discussing it's this resentment against a movement that is trying to get recognized. I suppose this is how I think of it. People, affirmative action. Women are coming in the workplace, and white men. There was something I was reading, an NPR statistic where white people are feeling they are getting more pushed to the side. There was a survey, and so there's this reaction to this where it's being motivated and resurrecting former movements with prefixes like neo-Nazism, or the awakening of KKK fringe groups. I don't know if you think about that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's something going on politically around racism and identity and identity.
And by the way, I'm horrible at articulating what I'm trying to say.
No,
so
I understand.
Think, yeah.
So, but we'll get. I think we can get to that. I am not going to start there with my comments because I don't think that the author of this violence is just racism is just white nationalism, or is some sort of counter response to progressive fights against racism, against sexism, and the white backlash. Well, yes, I have looked at the manifesto, and what it talks about is the clash of civilizations, a barbarian civilization versus the Western civilization. It talks about an invasion coming across borders, about terrorism, about a certain set of people who don't know how to live their lives, don't understand democracy, dirty hordes, and it talks about having to protect Western civilization. Where did that language start? Did that start with white nationalism? That did not start with white nationalism. That is the language of George Bush, Barack Obama, and now Donald Trump. That is the language of the war of terror that has been used since 9/11. Now, it actually goes before this, folks. It goes back with when Iran decided to take out the Shah, when the U.S. had and it goes even before that. But I'm just saying, that language that Brenton Tarrant, that wasn't made up by Nazis. That was made up by the Democratic Party and the Republican Party after 9/11, and it's been stamped. The violence that this man did is nothing compared to the violence that came after the authorization of the authorization AUMF, authorization of unlimited military force, which was basically something that came 3 days after 9/11 that said anybody that we can pin to Al-Qaeda. We don't even have to go to Congress to go bomb their country. We don't have to go Congress to send special forces in there and annihilate somebody. Essentially, you're talking about an invasion. Because if the U.S. was droned or special forces came to the U.S., we can't even have people walk across a border from the south looking for a job without calling that an invasion. But if you come into somebody's country with special forces, with military force, with a drone, with a plane, when a plane flies over here that is not authorized, that's called an invasion. So the U.S. has given itself the right to invade pretty much any country that it deems is a potential sponsor of terror. Now, under Bush, we know what that led to, Iraq and Afghanistan, and a massive body count. We know what it led to under Obama, which is an expansion of that war, okay? Mostly now taking the form, going into Somalia, into Yemen, into Pakistan, okay, into Libya, and it became a drone war. And now let's talk about some of the numbers just in Somalia, Pakistan, and Yemen alone. And remember, Yemen has got a double duty attack of war on terror, because the U.S. is authorizing Saudi Arabia to do their dirty work while the U.S. is doing the dirty work itself. Okay, so this is what is behind this violence. And the drone body count just of those three countries under Obama was estimated at about 3,000 people. 3,000 people, and further, it was then reported that they believe that's 20% short of what the real figures are. That's about, if that's 20% per short, that's about 10,000 people killed by drones. So, and we know that that is not like, oh, these are not targeted things. In fact, there's so many drone whistleblowers who talk about how we have no idea who's actually getting hit. Everyone they hit, they say is ISIL. Everyone they hit, they say is ISIS. I understand that. But what they really mean is anybody who resists the U.S. empire in the Middle East is deemed a jihadi, is deemed a extremist, when the actual extremist, the actual global jihad, is being waged by the United States across the globe. In Central America, in South America, in Africa. Somalia has now is a prime example right now. In Middle East, they're sending it to China. They want to be able to make war with Russia, and Europe isn't so much a friend anymore anyway. So
sorry.
So yeah, this is what irritates me: is people are trying to act like the violence by this individual came out of something very recent. There is something developing politically taking place. Nationalism is growing. I completely agree with that. And we're seeing white nationalism, and it's not just in response to identity politics, although identity politics have its part. It is also in response to the fact that the globe is cracking up in the context of the fall of profits, and everyone's getting squeezed harder, except the capitalists. But that's neither here nor there. The author of this violence, the actual language that this guy's using, you could take straight out of the book of the United States playbook for this global war on terror. And those are the people responsible. So everyone who's getting upset about this violence and says we've got to take the guns out of the hands of the people in New Zealand, wrong. You've got to take the guns out of the military of the United States. So go and do that first. Take the drones out of their hands, take the guns out of their hands, and then we can talk about disarming New Zealanders.
So the Economist puts out a report, a graph.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I can link to, and it shows the trend over the past decade, where discrimination against or Islamophobia and discrimination.
Of course, this racism. But we understand.
Yeah.
This racism's, again, the author of this racism, who do you think is saying these people are murderers and thugs?
Yeah.
Do you think it's white nationalists saying that? That's Barack Obama saying that.
Yeah. There have been more.
Who do you think is saying that these people don't know how to run their countries? We think we're going to have to spend a generation fixing their country when we're the one who destroyed it. That's Barack Obama. Would you not call that racism?
There have been a rise of white nationalist terrorist attacks, more so than there have been jihadists attacks in the USA. In the USA, I'm not talking globally.
Sure.
To account for, and people might be confused by my statement, how I said that. So I will link.
But you're shifting this around. Please understand. I'm talking about the author, not just of the political desire to destroy the lives of people.
But the people you're referring to, I think for people, the disconnect is that these people that you're referring to are in government.
Yeah.
And the people that are not in government, right? These are the people in government,
and I'm
committing
saying
these crimes.
And I'm saying that is where these crimes start. That is the origins of this crime, and they are deflecting it onto
the government,
onto these white nationalists, and saying, where did this come from? Oh my gosh, where do you think it came from? It came from the war on terror of the United States. This is nothing, no mystery. They want to make it a mystery because they want to basically separate somehow politically. They're trying to act like Trump is somehow responsible for all this violence. Yeah, sure. He's now, what Trump has done is taken the drone program that Barack Obama had, and he said we have less limits in terms of willing to use it, and so more people are getting killed under Trump in Somalia and places like that. But he just took Obama's program and extended it. So understand what I'm saying. I think people are worried about, the fascists are on the. They're here. The ideology that drove this has been here for at least 15 years, 16 years. Beyond that, actually. But it's really been extended since the war on terror.
It's not just Islamophobia; it's also anti-immigrant sentiment. No?
Yes.
So it's not just after 9/11. I'm just talking about like.
That was on the rise after 9/11 as well. They have used the war on terror to racially profile people. The war on terror came with it. Racism was a piece of that. There was a period of time where blacks were actually being said, "Hey, you can't racially profile me." And cops were actually saying, well, we can't racially profile. 9/11 rebranded racial profiling and said, no, we can look at your race, we can look how you look, and we can decide for our own safety. So racism is part and parcel with the war on terror. So there's no separation here.
So you're saying that after 9/11, this has been the jumpstart. This is where
Islamophobia has been around before then. I know, there are people from Iran who were sent back to their country back in the 70s. When the Shah of Iran was taken down. All right? So we've been doing this for a while. We've been supporting Israel to go after the Palestinians. We've been supporting Egypt to go after the Palestinians. We've been doing Islamophobia for quite some time. But if people want to say, where's the escalation coming from? You don't have to sift through the fine literature of white power groups that probably are growing some. Yes, I agree. All you have to do is read the State Department stuff that's come out for the last 15, 16 years. And that answers everything about where's the source of the racism, where's the source of the violence, where's the source of why are mosques being attacked. It's not white nationalists making this happen. I mean, that guy was a white nationalist.
But white nationalism is fueled by it, no?
Yes, absolutely. It's the saliva off the mouth of the dog coming off. Yes, when you have a rabid, mad dog like U.S. imperialism is, and this is a global violent empire that is determined to take over the globe. Right? The way they talk, that's how they talk about I'm using this language intentionally. This is how they talk about jihadis and ISIS. No, there is a violent center in Washington, D.C. looking to take over the entire globe and will use any source of violence to make sure it happens and will justify it with any level of racism. That is in our country, folks. It ain't over there in New Zealand. It isn't in the guns of white nationalists. That violence and the ability to act on that violence and the willingness and having acted on it happens in our country. So guess what? You can't just put this on Trump. You've got to put it on our entire state, and you've got to take the entire state down. And people don't want to talk about that because what's going to happen now is the Democrats are trying to use this to shield Obama from the level of this violence and somehow say that white nationalism is responsible for this. So this is Trump and this is MAGA. So let's get rid of him, and then the world will be peaceful again. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, I certainly agree that Trump is not the ignition,
the igniter, the catalyst.
Yeah, thank you. But I think that he is the current president.
Yeah.
And therefore, it is also fueling.
Yes.
Yeah. So and we can acknowledge that.
Yes,
as well.
and he has expanded. He has expanded the drone war actually, and given more permission to we don't have to check that. Go ahead and bomb that.
Yeah.
He has. Yeah. And it's been more deaths in Somalia.
Because I think that sometimes the way that this is portrayed us, the way that you're presenting this, can come off, at least how, if I'm not careful and don't know how this conversation is going, it feels as if we're not as well acknowledging that there are people that are in power currently, not just Trump, but like this guy Steve King, I think it was, who said some pretty racist things, a congressman, saying the Western civilization has always contributed and no other country has contributed as Western civilizations. Right. And I think it's important to note that as well that people are as well expanding the conversation on nationalism and fueling it and giving just fuel to it.
Yes, they're called the Republicans and the Democratic Party. They're called the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. Both of those capitalist parties are fueling racism. Both of those parties are fueling anti-immigrant sentiment. Both of those parties are dedicated to the war on terror. The only caveat I would say is they're both also dedicated to now moving
Can you
away.
mention a Democrat, maybe, if you can?
Barack Obama. Barack Obama basically said that these people in these barbarians in he talked about how the people in the Middle East don't seem to know how to run their countries, and we're going to have a responsibility for the next generation to clean up what seems to be a collapsing Middle East. That's racist. Do you understand that that's racist? Do you not understand how it's racist to say these are a bunch of thugs and barbarians in these countries, or thugs and killers, and we can't negotiate with them? Do you understand how racist that is? You don't see the racism in that? Because if you don't, then I don't know what to tell you, Eduardo.
What, are you talking to me?
Yes.
I'm listening to you.
So I'm just asking then.
Yeah.
I'm asking, do you not hear racism? You asked me to tell you Barack Obama's racism. I just told you.
When people are...
The entire war on ISIS is racist.
When people are trying to find the language that people are, that like this Brenton Tarrant used, they are looking for the key words that this person has used, and to find that parallel usage of words that maybe, like you're saying.
I just did at the very beginning. I did. I said the clash of two civilizations. Barack Obama's talked about that. Okay, I talked about how there's a terror threat that we've got to take out and got to make safe for the globe.
But to a lot of people, that comes up is deciphering what he is trying to say. When you say deciphering, if that is outright racism.
Dude, wait.
And
I don't understand
people
this.
want to hear when they say that they're racism.
Look,
yeah.
Brenton Tarrant. Brenton Tarrant killed 49 people using this language. How many did Barack Obama kill using this language? Wait, how many?
He had a war.
Yeah, way more than 49. But somehow you can't seem to understand.
I'm not saying this.
You are saying that, Eduardo.
No,
somehow I'm having to spell out for you that this man who led the U.S. state in murder and in violence, and now Trump has it, you're absolutely right, that somehow he gets a pass and he's not racist for doing that.
That is not what
Well, that's what I hear, because you're having a tough time understanding.
No, I'm clear with what I have said.
Okay,
I'm not saying anything other than what I have said.
Then I've said it.
Then if you're hearing other things, and I don't know where you're hearing that from.
All right.
But I know what I said, and I'm only trying to make sure that what you say is coming across to people and to myself as is trying to understand how the connection, because when this happens, right? The massacre happened on Friday.
Yeah.
How is that connected to other people that you're saying in the Democratic Party, and how can you make the connection when people automatically think the Democrats are this saintly hood people? No, that is how people think. Liberals, most here, especially in San Francisco, will say that is a language and a rhetoric that comes from the right-wing Republican Party. But I agree with you that this is being also ignited and perpetuated by the Democratic Party, because they are the capitalists as well, and this is being a capitalist, and these two parties in this country are part of this imperialistic agenda, is to conquer and take over, to be a global power. However, I think that when this is happening in New Zealand, I think when people are trying to find in solace and in anger and in resentment, I think they're trying to find how did this specific person, Brenton Tarrant, how did he had come to be radicalized like this? How did he come to be conditioned like this? And when you have him clearly stating how he was influenced by Donald Trump, that was clearly stated by him. He did not say that the capitalist global power of the USA is igniting me to do. He said clearly that there was a Norwegian right-winger and Donald Trump that gave him the input, the motivation, if so to speak. And he found his community in the crevices of the cyber world. This is what people see and hear directly from his mouth. Even after he is dead. Excuse me, he is not dead.
Yeah.
He's in custody.
Yeah.
So I think that is what I'm trying to say. You understand?
Right. What I hear,
yeah.
what I think I hear you saying is, we really can only the understanding you're trying to impose on this. You're imposing it is, I want to understand this individual, Brandon.
And I don't think
Brenton
it's an
Tarrant.
isolated event.
Well, then okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Then it isn't an isolated event, because you can't understand this if you just try understanding one individual. And frankly, that's not how this is going to be used. All of New Zealand is going to be partially disarmed on the basis that they are the New Zealand ruling class understands this is not just Brenton Tarrant. They're going to use this as an excuse to do what they do, just as the United States is going to use this as an excuse what they do, whether that be clamping down, clamping down on people here in this country, and again trying to take people's guns and blah blah blah, whatever. So they don't think of it as isolated, nor do I, but they have a different understanding of it. My understandanding of why this is not in isolation comes from the fact that his language is the same language that is being used to justify the war on terror since 9/11. A war that was initiated by Bush, expanded by Barack Obama, and then extended by Donald Trump, who made some statements he was going to get out of Syria, but isn't out of Syria. And really the only thing he's expanded is he's expanded the military measures of the United States to not just be these smaller regional wars, but to say we've got to now prepare for Russia and China, the larger big peace wars as well. So you can't, if you try to understand in isolation, you let the system off the hook, because the system is responsible for this. This language that he's using didn't come out of nowhere. And it happens, the reason I say the Democrats are as responsible is because liberals think that they're a counterweight to that racism, a pull in the other direction, but they're not. They actually push in the right direction. Hillary Clinton attacked Donald Trump as being weak on some of the questions of supporting Israel, on being weak on he's not going to like go after Syria in any serious way, and he's a tool of Putin, by the way. That's what she was saying. She was to the right of Donald Trump on going to war. So what do you think that does? What do you think that does to the discussion when the entire ruling class is dedicated to war, and turns out the left, the socialists, are in one of those parties, basically propping it up? That means everything shifts to the right. So that guy who did that, he's a product largely of the capitalist class, and the capitalist, particularly the U.S. ruling class, which is dedicated to the war on terror. New Zealand is not willing to fight on the ground, but has been willing to give all sorts of logistical support for Iraq. So yes, they're aiders and abettors of the war on terror. Okay, they try to keep their hands clean by not being willing to spend special forces to actually kill people, although they have killed people there. And supposedly defending the putting up of infrastructure and stuff like that. So, this is all them, plus the fact that our side, the left, which should stand up for internationalism and should the response we would have to this is the response we have to what's happening, this tragedy of Christchurch, is U.S. out of the Middle East. That's the answer.
Christchurch being the city in New Zealand.
Yes, right. The answer isn't take away the guns of people in New Zealand. The answer isn't, oh my gosh, the white power groups are here they come, and all that stuff really is trying to drive you to the Democrats to elect them in 2020, the same people who are authors of this kind of violence. So it's a complete sham. The only answer you have is U.S. out of the Middle East, bring the troops back, and take the government down. That's the only way you're going to end this kind of violence. And you're going to need guns to do that. So you can't take people's guns. So
can we say we are in agreement as far as state-sponsored xenophobia?
No, we can't.
Let's see.
Well, we'll see. I know what I've said, but let's see what you say.
No, I'm saying that that the xenophobia that exists in this country and around
the globe,
there's a
broad agreement.
Brazil, there is happening against indigenous people. That Bolsonaro is saying.
Who says, you know what, you don't have the right to kill people, whether you call them ISIS or ISIL? Who says that? Who says the U.S. or Europe doesn't have the right to kill them?
You tell me.
No one. There's not a single voice out there you'll hear say that, except for people who are called jihadis.
So when I say state-sponsored xenophobia, I agree that here's where I think we're in agreement, but you say that you want to hear what I'm saying. That the xenophobia that exists is fomented, is the word?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Fomented, it's the same in Spanish, fomentar. Fomented by and sponsored by the state.
Yes, and virtually every state in the globe.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
And but initiated and started in this country right here. We are the authors and catalysts of all that hate.
And that white nationalism, here's where I don't
Yeah.
know if white nationalism is trending and rising.
Yeah.
As this neoliberal, this new wave of nationalism exists.
Right, that
Yeah,
people
that's what I was
want to say like is a rise of fascism.
Yes. Where I think that if I may transition to, is the conversation on the gun debate, if that's all right.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's related. How would we then be able to curb?
Disarm the United States.
Yeah.
Disarm the
This is why-
state.
Yeah.
Take our drones
Yeah.
away from us. Hold on. You're laughing.
I'm not laughing.
I'm
not laughing because I don't think it's a serious matter, but it's because it's your answer.
What is that?
Yeah.
Where do you think this violence comes from, folks? Take our drones away,
Yes.
take our bombs away, take our military away, except to give them guns to take over the government of our government. That's the only way I want the guns in the hands of the military is to take down our own government. Unfortunately, that's not how they're being used. They're being used to spread chaos and fear and U.S. economic might across the globe. That is terrorism, folks. That is invading other people's countries and using terrorism to enact U.S. policies.
The reason why I went into the gun control is because this is what people think is a solution to curb this.
I understand
this
that.
violence.
Because that's not. Because that's not where it comes from.
Yeah.
The violence doesn't come from just workers in the United States. The violence comes from the capitalists of our country and the global capitalists around this country who've gotten workers to buy into this nonsense. It's part of the rise of nationalism. The rise of nationalism is connected to that. The idea that immigrants shouldn't be allowed in here. And let's be clear that to the extent that there has been a rise of immigration, it's a refugee crisis created by the global terror spread by the United States. So again, who's to blame? Not the people who say, oh, I lost a job or whatever, which is, again, we know that's horseshit. That's horseshit in this country, it's horseshit in Europe, to basically blame an immigrant for you lost a job. Okay? We know that's a scapegoat.
Yeah, I'm in agreement.
Okay, so, but it doesn't change the fact that there is refugees created all across the globe by civil wars promoted by the big powers. U.S. is at the center of it, Russia gets in there, China gets in there, they all get in there. But they're empires, and they're looking to fight with each other and fight against each other using these proxies and using other countries as their playground. And the Middle East happens to be on top of oil, and whoever gets control of that oil is going to be in a great position in the next downturn.
So you don't see, as what is being discussed in New Zealand right now, curbing gun control as a solution to curb this?
Absolutely not.
I do not think so as well. Our disagreement, or maybe not disagreement, but where I feel the gun control debate, which is part of the discussion, is that I have not clearly stated a strong position that we should all be just having arms, because I still believe that there should be some background check. No, but and for people, for our new listeners, or for for people who have listened to this and want to have a review for our discussion on that, we have an episode on the gun control debate they can revisit. But I do think that there is something to say about, I don't know how this will come up, how Australia, again, also put an end to massacre and mass shootings by having their law.
Where's this guy from?
He's from Australia.
There you go.
Australian
and that's not even the thing. Australia's role in East Timor, Australia's role in the war on terror.
But we're talking about mass shootings.
Right? Okay, yes, there's a mass shooting going on in Iraq all the time. Why is that not a mass shooting for you?
No, it's important.
No, it's not important. It's a mass shooting. It's a tragedy. It's a crime.
That's war, where people categorize that as war.
I understand that the capitalist state wants to say we get the right to do that. And Brenton Tarrant cannot say. Brenton Tarrant's just extending the war into these people's mosque. He's taking the war that they started and bringing it into the mosque.
Yes.
So who do you think started that shit? It wasn't Brenton Tarrant. And Australia played a role. New Zealand played a role. United States is the main author. So you want to let the capitalists off because they actually have more guns, do more killing. You want to say Brenton Tarrant's the guy? Come on. His body count is 49. U.S. body count probably 49 million.
It's bringing it back home.
Not back home. This is what they've done over the century that they've run.
Bringing the mass shootings in the Western countries.
Yeah.
Okay. So, 3 points already covered.
And we're still friends.
4 or 5. The next one.
Which ones did we cover?
Islamophobia.
Okay. Yeah.
State-sponsored xenophobia.
Yeah.
White nationalism, gun control.
Right.
And the next one I think is fully circled with Islamophobia because it is about political correctness. Here is the other thing I was left with. I had a discussion with one of my friends, the infamous friend that we have.
The one we interviewed?
Yeah.
He only has 2 friends anyway. Me and Jake.
Who can discuss these things. And
you're stuck talking to white people.
And crazy white people.
Yes, exactly. Both of us are crazy. It is true.
Kidding.
No wonder you
to
think
add
of
that.
the rise of something. There's certainly the rise of something going on.
There isn't a rise of these brown people doing this. Somehow there's no.
True.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we were discussing, and one of the things that we were discussing was that Islamophobia, is it something that we can say is, how do I frame this? Because it's going to be, the liberals will attack me in a second. Can we, and like I said, it's around political correctness, can we still criticize Islam and not be considered Islamophobists? I have criticisms on religious institutions. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, and I am now agnostic, and more so atheist. But I do believe there's a little spiritual, somehow energetic wave going on here that I do think that we should consider. That's a separate topic for evolution and stuff. But can we criticize the Islam religion without being considered Islamophobist? Is that the word? Islamophobist? Yeah.
I mean,
or
yes.
be tagged with Islamophobia.
Yeah, but let me.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm an atheist, right?
Yeah.
I don't believe in God. I know some about Christianity, some about Judaism. I don't know much about the Islam. But I was asked several years back. I was asked by some students of mine. Many of them, they were all women actually, young women. All of them Muslim. All of them, except for one who wore a hijab and who this was 6 or 7 years ago, where they were facing a lot of discrimination in the city of San Francisco and even in their school. They were facing Islamophobia. They were facing all sorts of bad treatment. One woman wasn't allowed to get on a bus. One woman was yelled at a bus stop, for being a terrorist. I mean, and then even in the school, they faced people pulling on their hijabs and things like that. So, for me, I was honored to be asked to do that.
To do what?
To be we started a club called the Muslim Student Association at Mission. Sorry, thank you. And I myself and another teacher who was also not a Muslim were asked to be the sponsors of this club, so they could have this club and start educating people in our school about what Islam is. So, am I Muslim? No. Do I believe in that religion? No. I think if you're in the United States, the biggest thing people have to do with regards to Islam is educate themselves about it. That's the biggest thing people need to do, is educate themselves about what this religion's about. You certainly better educate yourself first before you criticize, because that religion is being used to demonize a whole section of people by your state to get you to fall for this idea that they're your enemy and not your president. And I don't mean just mean President Trump, and I don't just mean President Bush. President Barack Obama was also your enemy. He was equally an enemy to you as President Trump is, as President Bush was. They both, all three of them, were gaslighting you and making you think that an immigrant down south is your major enemy, or somebody in Afghanistan or Iraq, or ISIS is your major enemy. Okay? No. Okay? So I would recommend that everyone learns more about that religion to find out what they think about it. That's why I know about Christianity. That's why I know about Judaism. I don't know about it so I can justify bombing a Jewish country or Jews in some country or Christians in some country. But that's how it's being used by this country. They are using both mostly people's ignorance about the religion to justify an attack. So for me to say, well, I want to criticize Islam. Well, good. Oh, congratulations. You found out you were able to criticize a religion in a country which is decimating a predominantly, not exclusively, a predominantly Muslim countries. Okay, because there's Christians and Jews and all sorts of other religions in there. And Islam itself has got all sorts of different divisions, which the U.S. has used to its, Sunni, Shia, all that stuff, to divide people in those countries.
Yes, they use them as allies to be able to go and
escalate the violence inside those countries. That is a time-tested imperial trick that was used by the British in India, when the people that divided the Muslims and the Hindus.
Right, and then they abandoned you like the Kurds.
That's exactly okay. Right. So no, if somebody in the United States wants to give me a criticism of Islam, I'm going to be like, why are you criticizing? What's your aim? What are you getting at? Well, how much do you know about this? So I'd like to know why. That's it. So, but my predominant feeling is most people need to educate themselves about Islam and find out what the religion is actually about before they can go ahead and try to justify bombing it.
I think, for me, I tend to be careful in certain circles because I do know that people are sensitive, especially in this day and age. But I want to point out that Muslims are not a minority.
Right.
They are a large majority of the
it's
global
a large
population.
Yeah.
And they may be a minority in this country, but globally they are a very strong majority. And when I have conversations, and here's something that I may get a little backlash from, when I have conversations, because I do criticize religious institutions, people say that I am being an Islamophobe. And I do not think that I am being an Islamophobe, because I do not think that we should discriminate anyone on the basis of how they look like, or how they are dressed, or how they physically look like, because if they have, but I do think that we can criticize ideologies. And I think that is fair game when we have an open discussion about any ideology and what I believe in, and to share your opinions. And I won't tag it to something like, oh, that is discrimination. And I find that political correctness, this is why I said that this is together, I find that political correctness gets into this way of being able to have those open discussions and make people defensive, and make people who are targeted use these in a way that, like I'll speak for myself, Latinos, who use this political correctness in a way to further amplify their feel like, or confusion that you're being politically incorrect, when we're discussing not your skin, your attire, and the way that you decide to perform your service to your beliefs. But having open discussions should be had.
I agree with you.
And any time, I think.
Well, I'll just say that what you're saying does make me think, because I haven't really known what to do and say about political correctness.
Yeah.
That term, because for a long time I said, well, you know what, you shouldn't be allowed to use language that's hurtful. And
yes,
I still agree with that.
I think this as
and
well.
we talked about that.
We did. Yeah.
But there is a problem when it's like shame, shame, shame.
Yes.
I do think that if you were to make a criticism of Islam, I would hopefully I say, okay, why is that important for you to say right now? And I'd probably try to say, like, who do you think, like, where is this discussion happening? Why is this discussion happening? If it's just you and me talking like we do all the time, then we ruminate about a lot of things. And I know from I trust you and I know you. I think we could just as easily have that topic around Christianity or around Judaism or around just religion in general. But it could land anywhere. But once you put it in a public domain, once you put it in a place where it has a more public sphere, then
we are now.
Yeah, like we are now. Right.
We'll be tagged on this.
All 300 people. Then when I have to ask myself and ask the person, who's being helped by this conversation? Is it helping our friends and allies, other fellow workers in this country and around the globe, or are your words actually helping the capitalists do what kind of nonsense they want to do? So, and that to me is not about political correctness. That's about figuring out whose side you're on, and understanding that words do have meaning, but why would you give these people who are trying to fool us any more ammunition to continue to do so? So it would be things like that, as opposed to, hey, shame on you, you can't say that.
Yes, and I agree with that, yeah.
Okay.
It's not that I think that we should say the right words and it's what we had already discussed before, is that we have to be sensitive. People do have feelings, and I think it's not nice, again, going back to kindergarten language, be nice to others, but it's not this way of got you, you said this, you are this, and tagging you, and oh, you're just this, and not hearing people out. And that's for anyone, I think, not just white and people of color. I think that's just everyone. But the reason why I think I had that is because it is during times like this that happened with New Zealand, and other times where I'm sure we're going to experience, unfortunately, more of these massacres.
Well, they're happening right now. Like, there are wedding parties that were bombed. I mean, I remember reading a story about these 5 farmers, and it was a disgusting description of these guys were just lying on the field, like they were hanging out sleeping, and this guy is describing how this missile just came down and slammed them, and how their bodies were distorted. They were just lying there, like, and it's insane.
I wasn't implying, but
no, I understand.
But yes,
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to you folks here. But it is disgusting what's happening, and it's a complete hidden war. The only people who really know about it have been. You should go out and read about some of these whistleblower accounts by drone operators. These people signed on for this mission, and even they are grossed out by it. So
well. And going back to the point I was trying to make, that we should have even when we have this time happening, we can we're not out there trying to tag people that they are this Islamophobe or that they're this xenophobe just because you're having an open political debate about political ideologies. And that doesn't make anyone just all of a sudden a xenophobe or Islamophobe. And I think that is the distinction, because I do think that we should have these.
And I guess I would say
open exchange of information.
And trying to think this through a little bit, and for me, a Marxist, I think I would ask the question, whose class interests are helped by the kinds of things a person is saying? Do you think you're helping our class, the working class, or do you think you're helping the ruling class now? I guess that's how I'd ultimately put it. Frame it, and that's a kind of a, but I think that's ultimately, political correctness is a situation that's static and like, this is right and this is wrong. And I think that we on the left have kind of gotten ourselves in a bit of a trap, and I think we have to get back to some more basic things of like, whose side are you on, and who's helped by what you're saying, our side or their side.
That covers all 5.
Does it cover all 5? Do I have any more? Did I have any points to come here at all?
I don't know. You came here to attack me.
It's been so long, Eduardo. I haven't had a chance to. Gosh, man, I had some issues.
No, no, I'm kidding. I don't feel attacked. I honestly don't care.
No.
What I wanted to say by it is if you have another point, you can bring it up. I had, like I said, when this topic came up, I had thought that this was going to be something where I was going to have a strict outlined position for me to have. But I said from the beginning, I have been left with some doubts, some questions, and some topics I think we should just talk nationally without even knowing where it goes.
The only other thing I'll say is nationalism is on the rise, and the reason the reason I believe that, we need to do something on identity politics, okay? Because an identity politics is not responsible for the rise of nationalism, but identity politics is the weakest hand. In fact, it's not a left hand. It's not a left hand to play for uniting the working class. It's a hand that will divide the working class, and unfortunately, it's politics that's what some of these white people are taking up. They're taking an identity frame and wrapping it around themselves because identity politics cannot unite the working class. So that's a separate thing, and we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
But we need to think about taking a more serious approach to saying what is identity politics, and then say what we think about it. But I do believe that nationalism is on the rise. I do believe that fascism is on the rise, largely in relationship to the continued problems capitalism finds, it finding profits, the continued divisions that are growing between the nations as they protect each other, protect their own borders, protect their own economies. This is the kind of stuff that's represented in Brexit, in Grexit, in Trump, and China and Russia. Those are the big pushes behind that. But secondly, the left that has arisen in Brazil, that arose in Greece, that's coming up here in the United States around Bernie Sanders. It rose up promising something different and delivered absolutely jack shit, and has pushed people to say the left is full of shit, so we're going to find right answers to these questions. And that's led us to these thugs like Bolsonaro. And it's going to lead to thugs here, because Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez are not going to deliver the kinds of things they won't deliver under the U.S. state the kinds of things that they really need to deliver, which can ultimately only be found if we have a socialist revolution in this country, a working class revolution. They're not going to deliver it, and then people are going to say socialism is bullshit, and they're going to go to the right again. And this has been the problem: is the left has been unable to articulate its own political center that's separate from the capitalist class, that doesn't have just an identity focus other than your identity. Whether it be black or white or Latino, immigrant, native, we have not been able to unite ourselves as workers who are dedicated to one thing: working class revolution, and an international working class revolution. That is the only way of liberating ourselves. And we say it, but we just don't do it. But I do think these things are on the rise. They're not on the rise because of white power groups or Trump. Trump is an aspect of that. It's a part of global capitalism, and we're going to see World War III. We are going to see fascism rise again in a deep and an angry way. But that's an aspect of capitalism. So you don't want to see fascism? Get rid of capitalism.
That's a good way to end this.
It's
Very catastrophic.
Yeah.
Through World War III there.
Right, yes. But it is good to do this again. It is good to just talk with you. And you did a good job here. I have to say, I didn't know all these things you were going to tie in. But it's made me think about a lot of things, and I appreciate it.
Yeah. I don't know what you prepared for.
I just got more and more. I read more and more about drones.
Oh my gosh.
I just got angrier and angrier. So that's it. And, reading statements made by Obama and whatever. But so next week maybe.
Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe it would be the Democratic Socialists of America.
Yeah. What did you want to discuss? So what is this particular subject you want to discuss?
I think identity politics is sitting out there waiting for us too. I think your friend Natalie is somebody we talked about interviewing. Remember Darylyn and
Bruce?
Who is
a socialist.
And Darylyn and Bruce, when they come back from the border, they're going to do a week of work. They want to do an interview on our show about their experience on the border and the refugee camps. So I like that.
Bruce again.
Yeah. But with Darylyn. But that's going to be in a few weeks. So she's going to go to her trip. But she actually asked me if we could interview her. So I was like, yes.
She watch these?
She knows about them. I'm not sure how many she watches.
Right. Yeah, she listens. Maybe I meant.
Maybe. All right. I'm not going to do a shout out because I don't think she's listening. Brandy's listening. Brian's listening.
All right.
Hema might be listening.
Yeah.
Jennifer maybe.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well, and just to so thank you, Andy. So we'll discuss this and we'll see how we can either choose. I will contact Natalie first.
Okay.
How's that? And then if she says next week or the following week, then we have something else to replace with.
Yeah.
Finally, I do want to say that speaking of always kind of focusing ourselves on Western countries and always forgetting the other countries, that capitalist countries have consumed resources from.
Yeah.
I want to say that Mozambique is an issue that people should be looking into, because there has been a cyclone that went through there, and there's flooding, and lots of people have drowned and died. And I think that usually mainstream media covers anything that is happening in Europe, like Brexit, which is taking forever, or things that are happening in the USA, but we forget these countries. And sometimes we think that Africa is a monolith and it's just one single country, and it is not.
Yeah.
It is made up of many countries. It is a continent, and Mozambique
Also
is one
divided
of those.
by empires.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to highlight that point. All right. So to wrap up, please check us out on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and BitChute. Please rate, review, subscribe, and share with everyone.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Take care.
I like to sit behind. I don't like to be like this, Andy.
All right.
I like this space, our back to normal, instead of not interviewing.
All right.
You'll see the other videos. They're like this.
Yeah.
A little Leonardo da Vinci triangle here. The woman's vagina. No, that is not something.
I see it right now. Now I see it. I didn't see it before.
All right. Okay.
Now I get to see we have a vagina between us.
Hey, Andy.
You said it. I didn't.
The way you said it. All right. Concentrate.
All right.